Hello, I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to I Don't Know, We Can Talk About It, where we discuss myriads of topics civilly, reasonably, and responsibly. My name is Kevin Dufresne. Our first topic regards programmatic development for educational environments. Considering what an environment may be, how might constituents of an environment, an educational environment particularly, address what might benefit constituents? What might benefit students? What might benefit administration? What might benefit staff in general? Who is to delineate the dimensions of an educational environment that may bolster the objectively good of learning of an educational environment? Who is to address what may be effective additionally to what may already be working that may not yet be of an educational environment? These questions might seem to fall of the purview of a few, though many must answer. So when an educational environment needs particular attention, how might the educational environment receive the best support that does not set any false notion of the environment's progression on any few individuals? One fallacy which I consider through two texts, The Black Swan and Creativity Inc., regards leadership of a dimension, past results being not necessarily a guarantee for future progressions. This is not to freeze a reality that individuals may feel somewhat nostalgic of, an everlasting consistency that looks the same. This is not to say everyone seeks so. This is to say what may be beneficial may differentiate through time, through circumstances. So addressing what may work requires always addressing what is present as well as what may be with future regard, which does not rest on a plan set on a date, though the intentions may be of sound, wonderful research. Evidence may be accruing, circumstances may be changing, whether incrementally, whether apparently, robustly. And these details are wonderful to embrace even with the plan. so as to consider what may be beneficial moving forward. Day-to-day progress. I think detailing educational environments with such regard may well establish healthier educational environments where individuals feel input receives valuable attention, where feedback is appreciable in ways that are not harmful, in ways that are recognizing that at least individual words are reaching ears, minds, perhaps hearts, to a degree of consideration. When establishing parameters which note qualifying standards, one may regard the decision-making process. What part of the decision-making process is consistent with change across educational environments? For example, in higher education, there are turbulent experiences. Educational environments differ greatly for many reasons that connect with programming. Not every higher educational environment offers even similarly, aside from being of higher education. How might a school match standard with what may equate to what is valuable to a higher educational environment is a question that necessitates great attention, especially if any standard is to align an educational environment to assess what an educational environment may be qualifying as in connection with higher education. When an assessment of the sort is set, then true differentiating is possible. Why might a stellar student opt for a higher educational environment that might be offering a wonderful financial package versus an educational environment that might not be offering as much, though has prestige? There are many areas of assessing an educational environment that may need great attention. These types of details are good for setting plans, though any working in education must be well aware that a plan may be wonderful for the day, though what the future may hold may prove valuable for a different plan to address so as to better establish an educational environment, better establish educational systems. With these considerations, one may be more mindful of what possibilities may prove ahead. Thinking with good attention to one's ideas with regard, with supporting as well as contrasting, contradicting dimensions of evidence so as to regarding what may be objectively good for establishing educational environments well. What else might affect an educational environment that might not have one thing to do with education? Is another wonderful, great question to address when considering how any might be able to assess any educational environment. Every educational environment requires differentiation. Not just differentiation in a classroom or in a particular educational environment, though with regard to long-term connective fabrics that may branch industry-wide, that may branch academically, education-wide. Our next topic, sleep. What's going on with individuals in educational environments and sleep? The article focuses on students, yet one may address the circumstances that might be affecting students as circumstances that might be affecting individuals at large. The article mentions the realm of considering adults as not getting enough sleep as a norm. Health standards are the norm. If any individual is experiencing a situation that may be impeding sleep, then how might an individual address sleep behavior personally? How might an individual address the situation? How might an educational environment cater to encouraging good health? Brings about many routes of results. There are different forms of education. I consider these traditional and non-traditional forms of education. These differentiations are partially factoring, though traditional educational environments may subscribe differently and similarly as to non-traditional educational environments, particularly with regard to when school might start, or at least what is an allowable time for an individual to come in without having to face the repercussion of being late. Considering whether the approach to attendance is the best solution is one way to regard sleep with an educational environment scheduling. Even so, one may not be completely aware of what's happening in the environment of sleep. One may not really be aware of how an environment beyond the walls of a home might be affecting sleep. If the world is louder, if the world is brighter around one's home and that is affecting what's happening inside, then individuals in a home environment may have to address these dynamics. Perhaps educational environments might bring that time back. So block scheduling might fit nap time. So individuals may sleep for an hour, hour and a half, then recover to perhaps a later scheduling of the day, perhaps an online session in the morning or after school that has an online monitoring parameter, so that any educator that may already be on the way to wherever that educator may be going may be able to flexibly check in and address the free independent work time at a more reasonable time for the educator. There are so many ways to find resolves that may be mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial in ways that secure individuals, so awareness is in line with working mutually beneficial parameters. So individuals understand they're not violating any element of scheduling. So the pressure of tardiness is no longer a situation. How I feel about tardiness is quite flexible, especially when individuals work well. So thinking personally is one area. Thinking organization-wide, I'm of the same consideration of a personal dimension, though with consideration of what might be mutually beneficial. I'm of that stand, of that offering platter, if one will, for examples of potential elements that may be very effective. So individuals may sleep better, at least have less reason to set an education environment as reason for not getting enough sleep. All right, it's time for some origami. This origami here requires a squarish sheet. So I have my point-to-point fold. I'm going to take one point and bring it across like a salute. Then I'm going to bring the other point across like a salute to the other side, go over the hand. Now, I'm going to take, see this flapping here, it splits. I'm going to take the front flap and I'm going to stick it in the front salute, so the most recent salute. Now, what I have here now is a seed holder. Now, this is actually the pathway to a cup. This is one area we may observe. So, one may use this as a cup, one may just fold this back, even with this flap in. So, what I find quite interesting about this is, if one fills it with seeds, then one can just take the top, flip it over, voila, a seed pouch. So if the seeds are of a size reasonable, then even if one turns it upside down, it may hold. To really firm this, one may add some tape, though origami with this one sheet of paper I find is very accessible. So with that, if one wants to, one may just pop up the lid, perhaps have to fix the inside again, and just grab some seeds. Cool. I champion reading physical books. When an individual reads a physical book, there are long-term health benefits. Reading a physical book physically changes the brain. Better sex through mindfulness. Dr. Brotto brings about empirical research to address how one may be mindful. Mindful intentionally, so as to improve one's connection with sexual realms, to experience these sexual realms more pleasurably, in safer capacity, in healthier capacity, in more mindful capacity. The text offers many strategies that revolve around different situations, bringing individuals from self-awareness, practices that really engage with one's well-being, with self-care, with self-love, with mindfulness of self, with mindfulness of behavior, mindfulness of practice. Then brings one into unity beyond oneself, which involves being with oneself, though with another. So the text engages mindfulness, beginning with where one is, addressing what may be affecting an individual biologically, medically, advising mindfully, not substituting for what one's GP might be considering, what one's medical professional, primary doctor might be advising, especially if the medical professional is of a particular area. Consider gynecologist, urologist. The text is bringing about evidence showing how to address pain, how to address healing, how to address being present. What makes the realms of sex accessible for anyone? The text is not only for women. The text offers information valuable for both women and men. And I really think the text offers many pathways to address what being mindful is and how one may recognize one's levels of mindfulness, because one may be mindful in many different contexts differently. Thank you for joining. I don't know. We can talk about it. Onward and Upward, Kevin Dufresne.